Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and today it is the video that we lovingly refer to as the Beast here at the Commanders Report, my perfect offseason plan for your Washington Commanders in 2025. So today we're going through roster cuts, blockbuster trades, an extension. We got NFL free agency targets, and we'll finish out with an NFL mock draft for your Washington Commanders. So before we get into the Beast today, let me know down there in the comment section what's one move that you really want the Commanders to make this offseason. It could be anything. It could be trading for Myles Garrett. It could be trading for Cooper Kupp. It could be anything you guys want. What's one move you really want the Commanders to make in 2025? So today's categories on the perfect offseason plan: 2 roster cuts, all right? Or 1 roster cut, I should say. I actually only cut 1 player in this entire plan. That's how much cap space the Commanders have this year. 1 contract extension, 2 blockbuster trades. We got NFL free agency signings, and then we'll finish out with a mock draft. Now, keep in mind, guys, that this is not necessarily a predictions video. So if after free agency is done, after the NFL draft, I don't want anybody getting in my DMs and saying, Jack, you said we were getting this guy, or you predicted that this was going to happen. No, this is just my idealized version of what I would like the 2025 offseason to look like, all right? But with that being said, I am going to try to keep this somewhat realistic, all right? I'm not going to be like trade for Patrick Mahomes or trade for I don't know who's a player you can't get, TJ Watt or something like that. We're not going to do that on this show today. We're going to keep it somewhat realistic. So without further ado, let's get into my only roster cut that I'm going to highlight on today's show. The Commanders will probably make more than just 1 roster cut, but this is the most significant. You have to cut Andrew Wiley, man. He has not been good the 2 seasons he has been here in Washington. He just hasn't, and you can save $7.7 million by cutting him. So this is something that I think is a no-brainer, and I think the Commanders are definitely going to get done sooner rather than later. So you cut Andrew Wiley. That gives you $82.9 million in cap space for next season. Now, obviously, you have to re-sign a bunch of players and all these different things, and the Commanders could certainly cut Percy Butler and save $3.5 million. They could cut guys like Dorrance Armstrong and save some money as well, but just for the purposes of this video, we're just going to cut Andrew Wiley. Now, the first move I'm going to make is to give a much-needed and much-deserved contract extension to Scary Terry. I'm going to give him 3 years at exactly $30 million per season, which would put him around the top earners in the National Football League, which is where he deserves to be. He doesn't deserve to be necessarily where Justin Jefferson is at $35 million per year, but he certainly deserves to be in the Brandon Ayuk and the Amon-Ra St. Brown conversation. I think we all agree Terry McLaurin is a top 10 receiver in the National Football League. Some people might even argue top 5. He's certainly one of the most underrated pass catchers in all of football. So I think $30 million is more than fair to lock up Terry McLaurin for the next 3 seasons, along with the final year of his contract in 2025. So 2 blockbuster trades now on the Beast. First one is I'm going to trade for Myles Garrett. And I've been saying on the show here for, ever since that Garrett requested a trade. This is a move that I would make if I were Dan Quinn and Adam Peters, because the number 1 need on this team, in my opinion, is getting a true number 1 edge rusher to really take this defense and take this pass rush to a whole nother level. And there's no other player available on defense this year that can make as much of a singular impact as Myles Garrett, which is why I would give up 2 first-round picks and even some change to go get Myles Garrett. Now, I do think that the real trade in real life won't be this simple. I think that there will be some picks thrown back and forth, 3rd and 4th rounders. That's how it went with the Khalil Mack trade. But for the purposes of this video, we'll keep it simple. 2 first-rounders in exchange for Myles Garrett, and then we're going to give him the contract extension that he's looking for, 4 years, and we'll make him the highest-paid defender in the history of the National Football League at $34.3 million per season. I think he is worth every single penny of that contract, given the way he blows up an opposing team's offensive game plan. We just saw in the Super Bowl that the key to beating the Chiefs, the key to beating the top teams in the NFL, dominate the trenches. Nobody dominates the trenches like Myles Garrett. So for me, this trade and this contract is worth every single portion of it. So let me know down there in the comments section. Would you accept this trade if you were GM Adam Peters? Would you trade 2 first-rounders and give Myles Garrett the largest contract for a defensive player in NFL history? Type A for accept or D for decline. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, let me know if you'd accept or decline this trade offer for Myles Garrett. Also going to do a trade for Deebo Samuel here, reunite him with Adam Peters. Of course, Peters was the assistant GM in San Francisco, and, Deebo is being shopped by the San Francisco 49ers, and according to recent reports, they're just looking for a day 3 draft pick. So for me, I'm looking at a pick that the Commanders have at 148, and I think that's more than worth it to get a guy like Deebo Samuel, who's a Swiss Army knife, and as we saw in Cliff Kingsbury's offense this year, he likes to go to kind of like multiple running back sets and lots of different motions. Like, he could certainly use Deebo Samuel in this offense. And at this point in his career, Deebo's not a true wide receiver. He's more of like a Swiss Army knife and kind of a gadget player. I think that if there's any coordinator in football that can use him in the right way to help that team win a Super Bowl, it is Cliff Kingsbury and the Washington Commanders. So for a 5th-round pick, I think it's absolutely worth it. So that would be my second trade. Okay, now let's go sign some players in free agency. We just traded for Myles Garrett and Deebo Samuel, a couple of nice veteran pieces. Gave away 3 draft picks to go get them, but nonetheless. Now let's get into some of the players I would bring back in free agency that were on this team last year. We'll start with Jeremy Chinn. Give him a 3-year, $6.5 million per season contract. I think he plays a very unique role in this Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. defense, and he plays a role that's very hard to replace. I thought he played it well last year, so I want to bring him back for the long term. Then Dante Fowler Jr., I'd bring him back. If you could get him back on a multi-year contract, I would, because I think he is somebody that is an impact player. I think, with the double-digit sacks that he came on without kind of starting the year as a rotational player, he really solidified his role as the season went on. 10.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and an interception. He was a big-time player that made some really, really big impact plays throughout the season, and I want him in this rotation. And at just $5.1 million per season as the projected contract figure, I'll take 3 more years of that. Then we get to Bobby Wagner. I'll sign him to a 1-year, $5 million contract to be the captain in the middle of the Commanders' defense. Then you get to Marcus Mariota as the backup quarterback. I hope that you can bring him back in the ideal world. I would love to bring back Marcus Mariota for $4.2 million on a 1-year deal. Then Zach Ertz as well. Get Jaden Daniels' binky back out there. 1 year, $3.5 million per season. I think that's more than worth it for somebody that I still consider to be a really good receiving tight end at this point in his career. Then when it comes to the players in free agency that are outside the organization that I would bring in Charvarius Ward to be the other outside corner alongside Marshawn Lattimore. 3 years, $14.5 million per year. Once again, reuniting with Adam Peters here in Washington. Then I'll go with Ronnie Stanley, the offensive tackle out of Baltimore here. 2 years, $10 million per season is his projected contract figure, so that's what I'm going to sign him to right now. He has experience protecting mobile quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson there in Baltimore. He's also a pretty darn good run blocker as well, so I will go ahead and sign him. Then Zach Martin, the guard, I'll sign him to a 1-year, $7 million contract, which is what Pro Football Focus is projecting him at. He follows Dan Quinn from the Cowboys to the Commanders, and he replaces Nick Allegretti at left guard. So let me know down there in the comments section, and make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already for daily Commanders videos. If you enjoy content like this, we get you guys extensive Commanders content for free on this channel every single day. We are the fastest growing individually run Commanders news channel anywhere on YouTube, so make sure you click that thumbs up icon to help out our show today. So now let's get into the mock draft. We've made a couple trades, we've gone in free agency, and we've supplemented the roster with veteran talent. Now let's go in and let's get some of the younger pieces to kind of replenish the roster here with some youth. But we have to remember here, no first-round pick because we traded for Myles Garrett. So no first-round selection at number 29 overall. So the first pick the Commanders would have in this scenario is pick number 61 in round 2. And I'm going to take Jaden Higgins, the wide receiver out of Iowa State. Now, I'm very high on Higgins. So it's a very real possibility that he's not here at number 61. But again, this is the perfect offseason plan, and there's enough good receivers in this class where I think somebody that's going to be a really good pro is going to be available for the Commanders at number 61. Higgins combines a 6'4" frame with really fluid athleticism and ability to get open that you just don't see very often from guys his size. It reminds me a lot of Drake London, but kind of like a diet version of Drake London. He's not quite as good after the catch as Drake is. He's not quite as fluid as Drake is as an athlete, but Higgins is still very rare in terms of his athleticism at his size. I think he could come in right away and be the true number 2 wide receiver for the Washington Commanders here if he's taken at number 61. Then in the third round here, I'm going to supplement the running back room with somebody that reminds me a lot of one of Cliff Kingsbury's favorite players of all time in James Conner. Now, Conner in Arizona is probably the most underrated running back in all of football. He's an awesome, awesome player. Caleb Johnson out of Iowa reminds me a lot of him. Very physical, great vision, really good acceleration, and really nice patience as well. Plus, he can catch the ball a little bit out of the backfield. I think that he would be an excellent future number 1 running back option in this offense. He'd rotate in immediately. Maybe Brian Robinson Jr. starts the year as RB1, but I think by the end of the season here in 2025, Caleb Johnson would establish himself as the new number 1 running back option here in Washington. Then in round 6 here, I'm going to take Quincy Riley, the cornerback out of Louisville. Now, we'll see after the combine where Riley kind of slots in, because I think he's going to run a very good time. Very good recovery speed from this guy. So I think he still has a little bit of stuff to clean up in his technique, which is why, he's a round 6 guy here, but I think he's got the physical tools you look for in this kind of press man system that Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn want to run here in Washington. I love the recovery speed from Riley, so I'll take him here in round 6. And then in round 7, I'm going to take Thomas Perry, the interior offensive lineman out of Middlebury. This guy dominated Shrine Bowl practices this year. And, if you don't know this guy's name, I don't blame you. But at Shrine Bowl, he went up against some of the best defensive tackles in the country, and he didn't lose like a single time. He was unbelievable, fantastic anchor, great technique, really good footwork and balance. This guy is strong as a bull as well. So I think he's getting slept on big time in the NFL community. I think that if you can get him in round 7, you could potentially have a big time steal on your hands here with this interior lineman out of Middlebury of all places. Then the final pick here, 250, not pick 238, pick 250 here. I'm going to go with Tyler Shuck, quarterback out of Louisville. Marcus Mariota, we signed him to a 1-year deal, but I think Shuck has a really nice skill set to potentially be a nice backup with this football team for a long time. All right, I don't know if he necessarily will be a starter in the league, but I like his film from Louisville. Right now, the NFL community, in my opinion, is kind of lower on Shuck than they should be. He had a really, really good Senior Bowl week. I kind of feel like by the end of this draft process, Shuck's going to be like a day 2 draft pick. Not a late day 3 guy, but right now, based on where he slots in on a lot of people's big boards, right now, you could probably get him in round 7 or round 6, so I'm going to take him here in my perfect offseason plan. So you take a look here at my idealized roster here in my perfect offseason plan for the Washington Commanders. I got Jaden Daniels, of course, at quarterback. Caleb Johnson will eventually take over the number 1 running back spot. Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler fill out the rest of the rotation in the backfield. Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, and Jaden Higgins will be your 3 wide receiver kind of combination there. Olamide Zaccheaus will also come in as depth. You got Zach Ertz and Ben Sinnott as your 2 tight ends. Then along the offensive line, you got Ronnie Stanley being your new left tackle. Zach Martin coming in to play left guard. Tyler Biotish playing center. Sam Cosmi at right guard. And Brandon Coleman moving over to the right side at right tackle instead of going into his sophomore season as a left tackle. Then you get to the defense here. Myles Garrett and Dante Fowler Jr. as your 2 top edge rushers attacking quarterbacks. Dorrance Armstrong, I did bring back in this scenario to be an early down run defender. Daron Payne, I did bring back in this scenario. Jonathan Allen, not Jonathan Taylor. Goodness gracious, we got Jonathan Allen as the second defensive tackle. Jerzon Newton rotating in as well in his sophomore season. Then Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu as your off-ball linebackers. Then in the secondary, you got Marshawn Lattimore and Charvarius Ward as your top two corners. I think that those two are very good fits inside this defense led by Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. Mike Sainristil will slide back into the slot where I think that he's more built to play. That's what this team drafted him to be. And I think that we saw with Cooper DeJean this year in Philly that having an apex predator in the slot and as a nickel defender can be a game changer. And I think Mike Sainristil can be that game changer for the Washington Commanders. And Quan Martin and Jeremy Chin round out the rest of the safety room. So let me know down there in the comments section. Grade my ideal Commanders offseason plan down there in the comments section. Give me an A, a B, a C, a D, or an F. Of course, I'm giving myself an A+ here, but let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Type those real ones if you haven't already in the comments section. If you made it to the end of today's show, really do appreciate your guys' support, making it to the end of these longer videos because it really does help out our watch time. It helps out the YouTube algorithm, getting more people involved in this awesome community that we have built here on the Commanders Report over the last several seasons. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We got extensive Commanders content coming your way, as well as breaking news coverage every time Adam Peters makes a big move this offseason. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And until next time, guys, hail to the Commanders.